Good morning, Donnie Thomas back with you. And this morning I want to talk to you about nudges from God. What I mean by that is those times that the Lord puts something on your heart, whether it's to do something or say something or help someone or whatever the case may be, but it's just, you feel it deep in your heart. And it's kind of that way with this video this morning. I felt strongly that the Lord wanted me to say this, and it's not necessarily a devotion, but more of a challenge. I grew up in rural Georgia. It's not rural anymore. I'm still in that area. When I was growing up, it really was. There was a lot of hunting and fishing going on. And yeah, I did say those right. I know you cringed a little bit, but around here, the G gets dropped off. But the people that are involved in that, they take it really seriously. And several years ago, probably back, I don't know, mid 80s, maybe even late 80s, a lot of the churches around in this area started outdoors ministries that tailored to the people that hunt and fish and do the outdoor activities. And they started doing what was called at the time a wild game dinner. And I remember our first one at our church, and it was a big deal. I mean, several men stayed up for 2 or 3 nights cooking all kind of wild game, and then they would bring someone in, some sports person to speak, ultimately to end with a gospel presentation, trying to reach those that you may not have another method of reaching, but they would bring different types of people in to speak. I know I've been to some that had baseball players, NASCAR drivers, professional fishermen, and there's a comedian from Atlanta that most people probably know. He's pretty well known, Jeff Foxworthy, and he has done several of these things. And I heard a thing that he said the other day talking about one that he did that was in Baxley, Georgia. And he said they called him and asked him about doing it. And he's at the point in his career, he can be selective on where he wants to speak or whatever. But he said that he really felt God wanted him to go do this. And it was about 4 hours from his house. So he asked a buddy of his to go with him. Well, he said when he got down there, he said, in his words, it was a goat roping. And he said they didn't have a stage. They had no sound equipment or anything. He said, so they got scrambling together and found some pallets and stacked them up and made a makeshift stage. And he stood on it and screamed at the top of his lungs. And he said he did the comedy, and at the end of it, they got back to the gospel presentation, and then he left and went home, and actually was thinking more of how he could use it in his comedy routines than anything else. About 2 years after he did that dinner down there, he was at church one Sunday morning out in the hallway waiting for his daughters to come out of the restroom, and he said a guy walked up to him and said, you were at a wild game dinner that I was at in Baxley, Georgia a couple of years ago. And long story short, this guy had given his life to the Lord, and it really had impacted his life and, changed the trajectory of his life. And so you never know who the Lord might be trying to get you to reach. So the reason for me bringing this up, I think, talking about the nudges, I think there's several people on here that I feel certain have been nudged to maybe do a video and do one of these devotions, and for whatever reason you haven't done it or you've been afraid to. I know if you've been watching most of them, you've heard a recurring theme of people that are uncomfortable doing this type thing, and I'm really one of them, and there are several others that have mentioned it. But I want to challenge you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. I know in my case, that's a lot of times that God's been able to use me to speak to someone when I'm uncomfortable in a situation. I think that just makes us more dependent on His power in our life and His direction. So I want to challenge some of you. I know there's some people on here. I know a lot of you, but in reading the chats, I know there's a lot of people that have some good stuff to say. And I think now would be a really good time to do some of these. And let me preface this by saying that nobody asked me to do this. I just felt a urge from the Lord that maybe if I said something about it, some people that I think would be really good at it will contribute. I've enjoyed some of the others that have jumped on board with this. I just think it's something that would it would help you and really help others. And you never know what way that might be. I know usually when I do something like this, I pray because I'm not very good at speaking, public speaking or whatever. And I usually pray and ask God to take my words and turn them into His words and let the people that are listening to it hear what He wants them to say instead of what I actually said. So, and He's done that multiple times. But so I just want to challenge you to do that. I know there's people on here that can do it, and I look forward to hearing from them. I want to share a verse of scripture with you. It's found in Proverbs 8, verse 6. It says, "Listen, for I have worthy things to say. I open my lips to speak what is right." And I know some of you have had nudges from the Lord of things, that you would like to say. And like I said, just not comfortable doing it. So I want to challenge you to do that. Please, if you can, just knock one of these things out. Believe me, this is a non-threatening place to do this. You won't find anywhere else that is less threatening. So no one's going to judge you or anything. And I'm sure that the Lord's going to give you a word that's going to make a difference in people's lives. So I would challenge you to do that. Hope you have a blessed day. Get out of your comfort zone and go speak for the Lord.